Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Clint Eastwood pulled into the studio's rear entrance in his black SUV after the sun had set on Hollywood Boulevard. Unlike other talk show guests, the security guard welcomed him with dignity, and his weathered face displayed no signs of apprehension. Tonight's presentation explores Clint Eastwood's disobedience during a routine interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live, which shocked the nation. How did a simple talk show segment turn into the year's most talked about TV moment? Let's talk about how Clint avoided becoming just another ratings-driven circus act by refusing to play the game according to Kimmel's rules. Clint Eastwood, 94, has had enough of wearing prop hats and making jokes in writing. His most recent image, a rancher's desire to talk about something real, is reflected in a harsh drama pitting him against corporate America. The star of a late-night television program was Clint Eastwood, who is in his 90s and still holds a high regard in Hollywood. Whether genuineness still has a place in the manufactured world of late-night television was at stake, in addition to one man's dignity. The room may be quiet just by his presence. Unlike many celebrities who have perfected the skill of the talk show circuit, Clint Eastwood's most recent film was about resisting forces that threaten to destroy the themes that have defined his career, both on and off screen. Clint agreed to this appearance to promote his work, despite the forced laughter, polished anecdotes, and meticulously planned spontaneity. Clint's 20-year assistant moved with quiet efficiency, scrutinizing everything with practiced fatigue. She cornered the show's producers with a low but firm voice. "Don't make Mr. Eastwood into a circus act. He's here to talk about his picture." Maggie was aware of her eagerness, and the producers planned for viral moments. They wanted Clint to appear in their skits, possibly donning a cowboy hat and making jokes about himself. However, she knew better than to compromise for anyone, including talk show hosts and studio directors, and the producers dismissed her worries, which resulted in a confrontation in the green room. Clint nursed a black coffee as he watched Jimmy Kimmel's opening monologue. The host was in exceptional form tonight, effortlessly navigating political gaffes and celebrity scandals, and the audience erupted in laughter. Clint's face stayed the same, but his fingers tapping slowly against his chair was a subliminal clue that Maggie understood he was assessing the situation. "They're going to try something," the stage manager whispered to a stagehand nearby as she arrived at the entrance and announced that Clint should take the stage by himself without any entourage or commotion. However, the stagehand merely shrugged, and Clint Eastwood easily took his place across from Jimmy Kimmel after receiving a standing ovation from the crowd. Although there was a noticeable sense of respect in the room, it was assumed that this would not be your typical interview. Jimmy asked with sincere interest on the movie's topics. Loyalty stems from the principles that inspire people to persevere in the face of hardship. The audience was taken into the seriousness of Clint's genuineness because his remarks were methodical and purposeful, as though he had lived these principles rather than merely portraying them on television. The audience was drawn to Clint's somber manner rather than his typical Hollywood charm because of his nearly mesmerizing performance and sincere conviction. Jimmy writhed in his chair, clearly uncomfortable with the intensity of the discussion. Talk show hosts keep their tone light and switch between topics, avoiding touchy subjects with a fake grin. Jimmy asked Clint if he still spent time riding horses, which was unexpected given their prior conversation. Clint's reaction was direct and impatient, providing no opportunity for light-hearted humor. Jimmy attempted to take back control of the conversation, but Clint refused, and the audience's laughter was tense and dispersed as they perceived a rift between the host and the guest. A cowboy hat with ostentatious ornamentation is obviously meant to be a joke. The crowd assumed it was all in good humor, but Clint's response was quick and obvious. He squinted, tensed his jaw, and said, "Put that away." Jimmy attempted to brush it off by saying it was only for fun, but Clint wouldn't have it and retorted, "I'm not here for that." Maggie noticed the monitor and knew the producers had disregarded her warnings as the audience moved uneasily in. Their seats and others moved forward, sensing something unscripted and raw. Jimmy made an effort to recover control by bringing up the movie again and talking about what motivated the rancher's story. But Clint knew what was going on and wouldn't comply. Jimmy smiled tightly as he nodded, but it was obvious that he was uncomfortable. Jimmy tried to deflect the conversation from the heated situation by inquiring about the technical aspects of the film's production and Clint Eastwood's directing style, but Clint interrupted him mid-sentence, saying that he had come to discuss something meaningful and not just for ratings. Clint Eastwood's live television performance brought to light the conflict between authenticity and performance that went beyond the parameters of the movie. While some audience members were obviously uncomfortable with the confrontation, others applauded Clint's decision. Jimmy, who was taken aback by the attack's directness, attempted to defend himself by saying that the show's goal was to provide entertainment, but Clint answered with calm words that emphasized that entertainment can have purpose. "I've been in this business longer than you've been alive," Clint said quietly, but with a distinct edge. "I don't need to play games to sell a story that matters." Clint pushed forward in his chair, his gaze growing as it met Jimmy's. Reactions in the studio were varied. The mood in the room changed from one of entertainment to one of a more raw and genuine experience, with some audience members siding with Clint and others advising Jimmy to remain firm. Jimmy, who was clearly upset, tried to diffuse the situation, but was unable to do so. His desperate smile indicated that the power dynamic had changed. Jimmy leaned forward. "We're merely enjoying ourselves." Clint's remarks sounded forced, and he wasn't enjoying himself. He repeated himself using decades of experience. "Do you think it's amusing to parade folks around here and make them look stupid for a few giggles?" The audience fell silent as a result of the tension. Jimmy tried to regain control of the situation by asking Clint about his favorite roles from the past, but Clint interrupted him abruptly. He said, "This isn't about him or his pee, but about respect for the work, the audience, and the truth." The room was now clearly divided on the drama that was unfolding, and the confrontation escalated as Jimmy, now visibly losing control of the situation, tried to appeal to Clint's legendary status look. "Clint, we're just trying to give the fans what they want," he said, gesturing to the audience. "They love you. They want to see the legend." Clint's response was swift and incisive. "They don't want a clown," he said in a low voice that seemed to reverberate throughout the studio. "They want truth. They want something real in a world that's becoming more and more fake." The audience was now completely engrossed in the drama playing out in front of them, split between those applauding Clint's position and those jeering what they saw as disrespect toward their host in the control room. Even though it wasn't the type of scene they had planned on stage, the unadulterated genuineness of the situation prevented the producers from deciding that this was television gold. Jimmy, who had run out of patience, got up and urged the crowd to show respect to those who had invited him. Clint stated, "Respect is earned, not bought," as he stood taller than Jimmy. He immediately took down his microphone, set it on the chair, and left the stage. In a society that prizes appearance over content and staged moments over genuine expression, there is still room for those who defy expectations and uphold their morals in spite of the repercussions. Clint Eastwood served as an excellent example of the value of integrity in the real world, even in Hollywood. He taught us that true power is not about controlling the story, but rather about being prepared to leave it completely.